So really the agenda is one, specializations, but Bora is also here so that any admin he wants to update you that. So maybe Bora, we can start with you.
Okay, good afternoon. I don't know if you can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for joining this meeting. I think we are going to be brief so that we are done before you guys go back to your workplaces. So I only have maybe 2 or 3 issues, though I know the main agenda will be talking about the specialization. But one of the issues I wanted to pass across to most of our students is that we have moved our offices. So maybe some of you may not be aware, we moved from our office in 13th floor to 6th floor. So in case any of you want any administrative services, you can come to 6th floor, the ICT wing. So you can inform your other colleagues so that there's no confusion. But the classrooms will remain at the 13th floor. So in case you need to attend classrooms, maybe you need a place to do your revision or the exams, everything will be done at the 13th floor. We only move the administration officers part. And the other issue is about registration. So I hope everyone has registered because of the incoming exams, the one being done from 5th. So for those of you who are on session, I think the Enrolls group, I hope all the students have been able to register all the units so that now you are be allowed to attend the exam to the exam card. If there's still any issue, you can reach out so that we can resolve. And maybe the last one, I think once our coordinator will have talked about the specialization, Ezron, you'll assist me to come up with, in case now you're going to have other options, if you are going to have maybe finance and banking, I'll expect Ezron you assist me to maybe go and have sub class reps who are going to assist in running the other options, so that the main you can become the main class rep. You assist in running the main courses, the core courses, which will be doing all the ones will be sharing together. Then the ones for specialization, you're going to appoint the sub class reps who are going to handle. So I think that's all I had. Maybe if there'll be any question, I'll try to assist. So thank you, Madam Kiragu. Maybe you can
pick it up. Okay. All right. So thank you, Bore. So I hope you have the updates from that, just the changes in the office. So let me present the specializations. Now, like we said, one of the reasons we wanted to have this meeting is because the timetable in the very first semester, 3.1, can be very let me not use the word confusing, but for lack of a better word, confusing, especially because we've come with a situation where you have 7 units for second year. So you know you're supposed to do for 2.2 which unit you're supposed to do. But when you get, and so the timetable is a bit follow through. So in that case, you will look for all the 2.2 courses or 2.1 and so on, and so that becomes a lot easier. But when specializations come in, a lot of change happens, and one of the change that happens is now you'll find the timetable becomes very individualized to a certain extent, especially when it comes to specializations. So there's a situation where you're all in class together, and then there are situations where you've now moved to options or specializations, and like you've been told, now you'll have one class rep that handles the core classes. So all those classes that you're together and you need that, you have a core class rep, and then you have now class reps for the different specializations. So as we'll see, so in that respect, now you break up into groups. So let me just share the document so that then you are able to follow through. So I got a summary of your specializations. And thank you so much, Hezron, for assisting doing this. So you're able to ask everyone what you wanted to do, what your specializations were. So we had an idea, especially for planning purposes in terms of course allocation. So that is where I want us to start. Now, for based on what you chose, I have put the summary there and what Hezron did, and now you're able to see how we analyzed it. So we've already identified from the ones that were chosen, what essentially have the highest number. So procurement have 7, finance and banking, they're 11, risk, there are 2, human resource, there are 9, marketing are 2, accounting are 2, and leadership is 1. Now, the most important thing here, especially as a class, is essentially for the groups that I will not highlight. And which means that essentially there will be purchasing for sure, there will be finance for sure, there will be human resource for sure. And so the struggle now becomes, what about the students who chose risk? What about the students who chose marketing, accounting, and leadership? Now, just as in terms of quorum, the quorum is normally 6 and above for any specialization. And it comes from the perspective that this is a specialization that you will carry for 4 semesters, which is 2 years. So you find that essentially at the end of the day, we are putting ourselves in, you cannot have 2 students. You cannot, it's very difficult to have 2 students in a unit and have these students carry through for the whole period in that respect. So what we normally say essentially is the quorum is 6, so that even you yourselves know just the way the classes are, especially for those who have small classes. When you were previously 5, I think there was, when they were in first year, there were 5 or 4, but that was just bazaar. So for that one unit where you had in bazaar and you were just 4 or 5, if 2 didn't show up, which happens, then essentially you find that then there is no quorum or some lecturers are not willing. So for that reason, we work with 6 and above. So the challenge then comes for the remaining students, the 2, and the 1. So essentially means we cannot offer risk and insurance as a full specialization for 4 semesters. We cannot offer marketing, again, for 4 semesters, accounting and business leadership. So then the challenge becomes, can the students then work around in such a way then they can combine the risk and accounting then can be one specialization? It's just a suggestion. I'm not saying that's the rule of thumb, but essentially what we're saying is for this 4, 6, 7 students, then they'll have to join what is existing or come together and form quorum for another one. In the previous session, what ended happening, many of them ended up in leadership. And so we created a leadership option for the very first time in a long time. So that's the case. So I hope we are now able to see where we are in that respect. So any questions or clarifications on that? Okay, so in that respect, what means that we will have this specializations in the timetable, and that's what you will see when the timetable comes out. And then I'll explain the other part where you might see certain courses from other specializations, and essentially that will do. So let me then put up the second one. So let me put up the second slide. This one, I did it in a bit of a larger format. Just give me 1 second. Let me ask, just 1 second. Okay, I wanted to give an opportunity to ask Mr. Bore to mute his mic. There's a background noise. Oh, thank you. All right. Now, so these are the course how third year will work. So in third year, you're expected to take 7 units. So the 7 units for MOI University does not change. So it is 7 units for the 4 semesters. So that continues just as we have done in previous years. But however, the 7 units now are divided differently. You have for each semester, you have 3 core courses you must take, which means all this must be taken by all students. So you have 3 core courses where you will have whether it's the third year semester 1, semester 2, fourth year semester 1, semester 2. So there will always be core courses for all students that you must take that core course. And then there'll be 3 specialization courses. So these are they're based on the options that you're taking. So if there is purchasing, there are 3 purchasing courses. If it is marketing or accounting, there are 3, and finance and so on. So in that case, there are 3 specialization courses. So if you're taking finance, you must take the 3 specialization courses for finance. If you're doing procurement, you must take the 3 specialization units for procurement. And then the 7th one is an elective unit. Now, this elective unit is unique in itself in this respect that this is actually based on an individual basis, what the student yourself wants to take as an elective unit. Now, however, the system does kind of in a different way make it such that if you're doing procurement, then you must do electives that come from your department. If you're doing a finance, you must do from finance department and so on. And so within the university, now we have 3 departments. And so in year 3, you now get into departments. And that department is the department that will graduate you. So when we come to graduation in fourth year, essentially you will graduate from your marks are processed by the specialization that you chose. And so in this particular case, just 1 minute. Sorry, just a slight distraction. So essentially what we're saying is at the end of the day, you find yourself with those specialization departments. So we have 4. We have within BBM, we have 3, but the school has 4. So they have 1, which is accounting and finance. They have 2, they have marketing and logistics. And then we have 3, which is management science and entrepreneurship. So this specialization fall in those courses. So you'll find essentially at the end of the day, you have, for example, marketing. So we have marketing in that respect, marketing and logistics, and within marketing and logistics, you have purchasing, you have marketing, and then you have aviation. So that is where aviation sits. So you'll find if you're a purchasing student, and then we're saying you take an elective, then it means the electives that you have an option of taking are normally marketing, because then aviation is not within BBM in itself. So that's usually the what limits you when it comes to electives. Previously, you could do any course. You could be marketing and take a finance unit and so on. And so that has become that. Okay. So at the end of the day, you still do 7 courses. So 3 core courses, 3 specialization courses, and one elective. Okay. Now, any questions or clarifications? Any questions or clarifications? That's why we're together. We'll do 7 courses, whether it's semester 1, semester 2, or semester 3. Now, the second part is, let me get to that. But again, give me 2 minutes to put it on the screen, because I want us to then look at how the timetable would look like and what to expect. So give me 2 minutes and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so hate it. All right. Now, this is before I get to Andrew's question, this is what I wanted us to see. Now, so far, we've identified 4 specializations. So at the end of your timetable, this where the other courses are, this is what you'll have. And many of you have already seen this previously, but now you look at it and it applies to you. So for those who will take purchasing, you have your 3 core courses, then you have your units you must take for semester 1 and units that you must take for semester 2. So this has semester 1, semester 2 for 3rd year and 4th year as well. So in that particular case, as a marketing student, then we expect, or a purchasing student, we expect you to take taxation 1, managerial statistics, and organizational behavior, OB. Then for purchasing, you will take purchasing management 340, 341, 342. So essentially what that means is that your timetable is very clear for 6 units. So when you look at the timetable and you'll see, you'll look where 350 is, you'll look where 303 is, you'll look where 360 is, and those are very clear. So essentially in that case, and then you look for 340, 341, 342, and that will apply for semester 2 as well. But now the challenge is the 1 elective. Now, because the 1 elective is individual, this is where we say you take the elective based on your timetable. So many a times what happens is we know we have classes Monday to Saturday. So if you look at it, you have 6 sessions. So it means that between Monday and Saturday you have 2 sessions. So essentially you have 7 sessions. In that case, normally just because Saturday we try and end by 1 o'clock. Now, for those 7 sessions, it means there will be a unit for each session. So depending on where the core classes are, and again, another thing to note about the core classes, we will never put the timetable such that the core classes clash with specializations. If that happens, that's an error. So you'll not find 303 on the same day as 341. Or 303, which is taxation and is a core, on the same day with 310, which is essentially finance and banking. So the core courses stand alone on their individual days. So that means 3 days of the week are taken. That's 303, 350, and 360. Then now it comes to the 340. So out of the 7 sessions you have on any given day, then any given week, it means then 3 are gone. So you have 4 left. Now, depending on where 340 is, 341 and 342 is for purchasing, or 310, 311, 312 for finance, then it means that 1 session then is free. So where that 1 session is that is free based on your own individual timetable is the elective that you will take. And we emphasize that because many a times most people will say, okay, for example, purchasing, and you want to take, say you've chosen and you have agreed that you want to take a marketing class based on what I described about the system and electives. So now the marketing class has to fit in the section or in that space where all of you are free. Trying to maneuver a core class to fit an elective is actually disadvantaging because other students have now running their own individual timetable. So you'll find for you to move a core class, you have to agree with the marketing team, you have to agree with the marketing, with the finance team, you have to agree with the accounting. I mean, as many specializations as we have. I'm just using examples. So in that particular case, that becomes the issue. So it means you manage individual timetables and we encourage for that. And so if you all opt to take a marketing elective, but some of you are finance and some of you are procurement and some of you are HR, then it means can you find that one space where all of you are free? And so it becomes tricky that way because sometimes it may not. necessarily work 100% that way. So the most important thing about this is to first ensure that your 6 courses are on top. So you have your 3 core courses, you have your 3 specializations, and then now what is left is how best to fit your elective in that respect. Okay. So that is how it runs for semester 1, semester 2, and semester 3. Now, when it comes to, again, choice of elective, I focused on marketing and logistics department, where I said it has marketing and it has purchasing or procurement. But there is then accounting and finance department. In accounting and finance, we have the accounting option, the finance and banking option, and the risk and insurance. So you find for the finance students, then you'll find that the unit that the system would accept essentially is for you to take something within your department. So in this case, it means either a risk unit or an accounting unit based on what is offered for that semester. So that is accounting and risk. And then the third one is management and management science and entrepreneurship. Within that department, they have BIT, which we haven't had in a while, which is business information technology, BIT. They have human resource. They have entrepreneurship, which we also haven't had in a while. And then they have leadership, business leadership. So they have 4. But because, like, for example, BIT and entrepreneurship are not haven't had students a very long time, you'll find if you're an HR person, then if you may opt to, you can actually ask for leadership course, and that can be offered as well. So that's how essentially when it comes to electives, that is what it works. The other way that has happened is that we've had cases where the students, yes, you're in finance, but you really want to take a marketing unit. The challenges with that is the system may not allow you to register for that unit when it comes to printing of exam cards and registration. However, sometimes we say you just do it, you write it on the exam card, and then the logistics when entry marks can be resolved later. But essentially that also we try and say, just stick to what is in the system so that, again, you get your marks instantly and not have to follow for them. Because if that unit is not registered in your portal, it means it has to be entered back end, which will be a challenge. So that, and then you can come together, for example, finance students or procurement or HR. I'm focusing on the ones that have, but I'll still get to Andrew's question. So you'll find the finance students may look and say, can we take, because they have all the courses here, and so they look and say, if accounting is not being offered this semester, we've normally offered risk as the other specialization, despite the fact that risk, what happens is that some students take some courses and then some are not taken. So you'll find, like, for example, in previous experiences, let me go to risk. The first one will offer 320, 321, 322. Now, 322 is an HR option in itself. So you'll find that students will take 322. But when they take 322, what happens is at the end of the day, that will be okay because it's offered both in HR and it's offered also in risk. But you'll find some students may opt to take 321, but no student will take 320. So in that particular case, what we'll do is the next semester, we won't offer risk insurance again as a full option because it wasn't taken in, it's in totality. Only one unit of risk was taken. So you'll find, if you look and find risk is missing, but yet in semester 2, you do have risk and insurance courses and you have access to them, you can look at them. So in this particular case, you will look and see, we liked risk, and so semester 2 normally 323, 324, and 325 are offered. So you agree as finance students, can we ask whether we can do 323? What that essentially means is that we will ask the department to allocate a lecturer just that one unit, BBM 323. So you will not offer the full scope, which is 323, 324, and 325. So it works the same with accounting. It works the same with marketing and purchasing. And it works the same with HR and BI, business leadership. So essentially, if the class can agree, or there is a good majority willing to take a course that is not being offered but is within the department, and you want to take it as an elective, just to stick to that scope of take units within the department, then essentially you make a request and will ask that a lecturer is allocated that unit. Okay. So that's essentially the scope of how it will look for year 3 and year 4. So like I said, this is in the timetable. So this will always appear as part of the pages, just like year 1, year 2, year 3 has, year 1 and 2 have done. So this will be part of it. But now you're looking for each semester, what is being offered for my specialization for semester 1, what is there for semester 2, what is there for year 4, semester 1 and 2 as well. Okay. All right. Now, are we together on that one? Any questions or clarifications on that one? Okay. All right. As we maybe process that, let me try and answer Andrew's question. He asks, for those who wish to change, when can it happen to switch another specialization? Okay. Now, the determination of the specialization is in 2 ways. Number 1, the units you take, the 3 units, because those are what determine which specialization you are. Now, many a times, I guess is coming from the concept where you're not sure which one you really want to do, and so you want to attend a few just to kind of have a bearing. Now, what we normally indicate for a student is you have to manage two things. Number 1, as you enter the classes or as you join the classes, remember some lecturers move at a faster pace than others. So you'll find the lecturers who will start off and kick off and keep attendance of their students on a regular basis. And so essentially at that point, they've gotten to the point by what we call 20% rule, which is usually the 3rd or the 4th week of a semester, around their 4th. Sometimes we extend it to 6th week, but by that time, it means the lecturer is aware of who the students are in the class. They've already given the first assignment, because the first assignment is by week 4. So essentially, the class has been running. So for you to join and say this is where you want to be, normally that becomes a problem. So there is that aspect. But at the end of the day, and I didn't want to start with that, but at the end of the day, what determines your specialization, is essentially the 3 units that you undertake in semester 1 and the 3 units that you undertake in semester 2 that determine whether you're a purchasing student, whether you're a finance student, whether you're a risk student, whether you're an HR student, because the specialization are very specific. For you to be a purchasing student, you have to do 340, 341, 342, 343, 344, and 345. That's semester 1 and semester 2. So you cannot combine a bit of risk and no. Essentially, for you to qualify within that. And we don't have an allowance for you to do from individuals specializations so that you graduate with what in many institutions would say an all-rounded BBM. So we don't have a BBM, Bachelor of Business Management, that is all-rounded and doesn't have specializations. So the way it is right now, you have to be either purchasing or marketing or finance, risk or accounting, or HR or business leadership. So you have to fall into either one of those categories. And what determines is essentially the results that you have at the end, which means this, the units that you sit for and register for as you prepare for end of term exams. So it's possible if you're still struggling with exactly between this and this, you can do that to try and understand what would fit for you, but take into consideration that if you miss certain classes, especially when the specialization classes, and it becomes a bit more tricky because they are smaller. So you have 7 students, for example, in purchasing, and the lecturer has been running on course with 4 students, with or let's say with the 7 who had chosen it, and then somewhere on week 7 there's a 7th one. Usually you'll find because of that the lecturer will be wanting to know who and why, and some may allow and some may not. So in trying to navigate the best way forward for yourself, also taking into considerations that different lecturers have different paces, and some are willing to be accommodative, some will not. Okay, but I hope that answers that. Does it, Andrew? Okay, it does. Now, Kathy is asking for clarify. Okay, for elective as a purchasing student, I should select. So I said for the one that the system identifies with and best works with is the select the courses that are offered within your department. So like we said, if you're a purchasing student, then essentially would mean you take a marketing unit. So if marketing is not offered, the whole marketing in this particular case from here, you would see that if you're in semester 1, 3.1, then marketing will be, these are the units, 330, 331, 332. So if those units are offered, then you choose either one, either marketing management, consumer behavior, or industrial marketing. And that is because it falls within the marketing and logistics department, so that it's easier then for the system to allow you to register when it comes to the end of the semester. So that will be your 7th unit, depending on what is offered. If, for example, it is not offered, like marketing may not be there because there's no quorum, then what, like we said, is you agree as the purchasing procurement students or purchasing students, which one of the 3 do you want to undertake as a group? So if you agree on 330, then essentially we'll ask the head of department or the chair of the department to allocate a lecturer for BBM 330. And usually that's not an issue, because if it's been offered in Eldoret, then essentially the person who is teaching there will be asked to teach Nairobi as well. So allocation is not usually a challenge, but helping identify which specific unit. And maybe I can be a bit more, add more to that, like the current 3.2 who are on attachment, the procurement class realized that marketing they didn't have as a specialization. However, looking at the classes for procurement, for marketing for 3.2, they agreed that they would like to do channels, BBM 333. And so they made a request, can we get a lecturer for channels? So we went ahead and did that, asked for that allocation. And so they did BBM 333 as procurement students as an elective. Okay. All right. Any other questions or clarifications? Okay, so I hope then that clarifies that. Why it's important really for this discussion is because you'll find that changing the timetable in year 1 and year 2 is a lot easier than changing the timetable or playing around with the timetable when it comes to year 3 and 4. And so what we try and encourage students, because we've had cases where students want to, the other issue is, for example, say you want to undertake a specific elective and you do not want to change, and that is the elective you want to do. And that elective is, number one, colliding with a core course. I said they cannot be core courses. It's colliding with your own specialization. So for example, you're a purchasing student and you want to do a marketing elective that you've actually seen the unit, because how we timetable is, we know if purchasing are in 340, then essentially finance will be in 310. So probability that purchasing will be in 310, if you look at it in logistics, we don't consider that. So essentially we're saying purchasing are doing their 340, finance are doing 310. But a purchasing student, or even the other way, a finance student, decides that the purchasing students decide they want to do 310. So now 340 is conflicting with 310 according to you, but according to us, they are not, because this is a purchasing class, this is a finance class. But individually, you have opted to do it as an elective. Now, what we say is essentially at that point, we ask the student, can you find the best way forward? Because we have said, schedule your timetable, your core courses, your specializations, and then where are you free? What courses are offered on that day that you are free, or that time that you are free? And that's the elective you will take. Okay, so essentially in that respect, what we're saying is we're not going to move around the finance class who have already settled into a routine because one person wants to do the finance class and it's conflicting with their purchasing class. And so the same case we had with accounting and finance. And so the accounting students were insisting, that they must take this finance class. But moving that class was conflicting in many ways. It was conflicting. The lecturer was not available, and they wanted to stay there. And so it became like where the accounting students are being disadvantaged. But that is because that is the only class they wanted to take. There are very many other finance classes. There was 310 being offered. There was 311 being offered. But they wanted to take corporate finance and they were adamant about that. So it became a conflict back and forth. And the reason was they were taking a class that was conflicting, but it was not conflicting in the real sense, because this was accounting and this was, so they have an accounting class on this day and they have an elective class they want to take. So we told the students, then figure out the best way how to manage both. So that's why it's important to have this, so that it doesn't look like we're conflicting and we're making it difficult. It's just the logistics. This is accounting, this is finance, essentially. But if you can agree that the two classes find the best way forward, then that's allowable as well. But at the end of the day, it becomes more complex to manipulate or to change around timetable once we get to third year and fourth year as well. Okay. All right. Now, so I hope we're clear on just how the timetable will be very different from what maybe we're used to from previous years, which is essentially for majority of you second year and for some of you from first year as well. And so the expectation and where to look for the courses. Of course, as we know, we only use codes. So in that particular case, then you will look for the specific codes, but this particular time, the ones that apply to your specialization. Okay. For those who have not decided, like if I go back to it, so we were back at procurement. For sure now we have 3, which is purchasing, finance, and human resource. And the other thing you'll find is that when we do the timetable, we will include risk. We might include risk and we might include marketing. And the reason we're doing that is to allow for the finance to have an elective option, to allow for purchasing to have an elective option. And then for human resource, sometimes we ask that they ask specifically, because if you don't have leadership students, in that case, you'll have may not have leadership for year 3. But we'll have risk, we'll have marketing, and we'll have essentially some courses if that asked. So what we're saying is the timetable, that's how it will be. And if you take risk, then, and we find that the risk units, you wanted to do risk, but you're alone. And that is because majority of students took that one of the courses, then you'll find you will struggle in semester 2. Because semester 2, once we identify that it is only one student, it's risk, it becomes very difficult to maintain that quorum. So in that particular case, what I'm saying is just as we go into the semesters, let us work with the quorum that we've said, which is 6 and above, because also the number at the end of the semester and the units that are done at the end of the semester will determine sometimes what is done in the following semester. And that is because it comes from allowing students to at least have the option of taking electives from their departments. Okay. All right. So we can say that makes it clearer. Any questions or clarifications? Additional questions or clarifications? Okay, all right. In that particular case, then this ends our session for today. It was just to clarify the specializations and what happens as we enter year 3 in terms of specializations, and also that's to show you. So again, if you rework, for those who have chosen risk, marketing, accounting, and leadership, now that you understand where we are in terms of what is being offered, if you want to move to a different specialization, please work with Hezron so that you can update that. And then hopefully by the end of the semester, by the time we do exams, which is end of next week, by the time we finish next week, then we'll know exactly where everybody sits. Okay. All right. Now, if there being no other questions or clarifications, let me thank Hezron for organizing this and at least allowing us the opportunity to update you as a school. And then we wish you all the best during the exams and have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Good afternoon.
Oh, someone's asking a question. Okay, all right. For those who are remaining, maybe we can look at Laura's question before we exit. So Laura is asking a question. Attachment is in part of 7 units in 3.2, or how does it work? Okay, so attachment is a unit in itself. It means it's actually 100% unit. So it is part of the 7 units. So you find that in semester 2, you do 6 physical classes and 1 is attachment. So it means that when the timetable comes, it will have 2 core classes that you must do. Core means that there's a physical class for it. The 3rd core class is attachment, but there is no physical class for that. And then the other specialization courses, those are 5, and then your elective. So in 3.2, you do 6 classes in terms of virtual classes learning. Now, attachment is a unit by itself. So how it works is that at the end of 3.2, you're supposed to go on attachment. So when you go on attachment, now attachment is based on your specialization and to get an experience in your area of specialization. Now, many of us, maybe a good majority, are employed, and others are looking for employment. So for those looking for employment, you'll find you're looking for an internship in your area of specialization. For those who are employed, you'll find some people will opt to maybe move to a department that is within their area of specialization. But essentially, what's the attachment? So that during that attachment is supervised. So attachment is supervised, and attachment is, so the supervision, when the lecturers visit, that's the cut. And then you do a report. When you do a report, that's the exam. So it comes up to 100 because the supervision caters for the cut, and the visit caters, and the report caters for the exam. So you still have your 100%. So the lecturers will put in your mark, and then that your mark will be keyed into your what we call BBM 353 as part of that. But it's not a physical class, and it happens at the end of 3.2. So at the end of 3.2, you'll go for an attachment for 3 months, which is equivalent to a semester. And then during that semester, there will be those visitations, there will be that report. And then once you submit your report, then essentially it's marked and graded, and your lecturer uploads the marks as well. So that is how attachment works. It is, yes, part of the 7th unit, but at the end of the day, it is not a physical class. So in 3.2, you'll have 6 classes, 2 core classes, 3 specialization classes, and 1 elective. The 7th one, which is a core class as well, will be done after the 3.2. So I hope that answers that. Laura? Okay. Any other questions? I'd already said before we finally end. But again, we're always available for questions. We're always available for clarifications. So even if we don't get to do it right now, we can always do it as we move along. Okay? All right. So if there being no other, then we can again say, have a good afternoon and God bless.
Mhm.